able to beat not only Hebi, Sidra, but also the Cassidy and the Nyx as well on a Suri. So we'll see how this Mordex plays out. Mordex is a legend that Himwy plays, but I don't see play all that consistently. Somebody that I see when they're on site, they're mostly playing Fate, but maybe wanting to play some Gauntlets as well.
Oh gosh, Hebi, how do you make it back on? Okay, bit of a nasty position to be in, especially against Himwy's Mordex, right? Especially against Scythe. That is not where you want to be at all. Scythe is notorious for what it's able to make happen off stage.
Yeah, you definitely can't get away with as many shenanigans versus somebody like Himwy, who's going to be very, very good at punishing offstage mistakes with the Scythe.
Oh gosh, okay, I saw the two weapon tosses and I didn't know which one would be responsible for the second thing, so it got a little bit spooky.
Yeah. That's definitely a sig that nobody wants to get hit by, but it's definitely like the best of all of that archetype of sigs of like doing an arc into a spike. It's just so fast and snappy and covers so much more space than it would look like, and going for two sigs there with the N sig, creating some space between Himwy.
Not sure what that was supposed to be, but that's okay because Himwy was able to get the stock anyways, closing it out with that weapon toss, taunting as well. Yeah, this is. Uh-oh.
We need a second, but yeah, but both players will be back here. Cool, a nice little sportsmanship there as they were both trying to recalibrate their sensors maybe, but nonetheless we got right back into it here. The Scythe versus the Sword. We haven't been seeing a lot, or we haven't been talking a lot about the Sword on Hebi, but Hebi's Sword is exactly what you need from a Sword. There's a consistent way to get those KOs.
I can't believe that worked. You saw Hebi's movement for a second. Walk, 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 walk. Okay, cool. You jumped to jump sider to be able to punish that. That was crazy.
Hebi's just built different in all of these situations. I don't know, like, Hebi's one of my favorite players in Southeast Asia for this reason alone. Like, it's kind of, not mesmerizing, but like awe-inspiring. Like, I don't know exactly how everything is working, but Hebi will get away with it, and even versus the best in Southeast Asia in Himwy.
Yeah, everything that, I feel like you said it best. Everything that Hebi is going for is connecting. So we got downlight into down air. That's just some good damage. Himwy, though, able to go ahead and quickly slap back with the side light into the recovery. Nice way to go ahead and close that stock off the top. Hebi finally picking up that sword. Neutral leg doesn't come out. Himwy finds one of his own.
For these juggles here, the recovery gets punished by a recovery of Hebi's, and now the juggles come in on Small Worlds. And we don't see a lot of soft platforms here in Southeast Asia, and definitely playing into the juggles for that reason. Going for the slide off sig, and you get punished dearly for it. The GC downlight into the ground pound, taps it in, and Hebi finally gets punished for going for a big read off stage with a slide off sig, and Himwy closes out the set.
You know, I don't
or not the
hate
set,
that
the game.
Sig. I think that was still
Really?
a pretty good idea, because had that been like pivoted and gone the opposite direction, I think it might have connected him. It was like there was a pretty good possibility where that connected. I'd like to see a replay on that last stock for like a sec, right? Like, that was close, but granted, Hebi just pressed a little bit too late. Himwy was able to successfully cross up in time and get behind and get into the blind spot. There was a universe where that connected. That did not seem incredibly unlikely.
Man, if that connected, that would have just been, I mean, I don't know how you like seize momentum back after that. Yeah, that's a crazy clip. That's a crazy, like, they call that the Mind Destroyer. Shout out to Northern Lion, and it's just like, what do you do there, you know? Like, but Himwy is able to beat the mix up there and gets the ground pound out, very thankfully bringing some order to this set. But yeah, Himwy on the Mordex has been showing some very consistent play from the Mordex. I feel like a lot of players that pick up Mordex might get too into their head about like, okay, I gotta like schmix the opponent and get these crazy strings, but Mordex is a legend that is very, very stable when you need him to be, and Himwy showing like, okay, even versus somebody that's so aggressive, I can still like seize control, play very solidly on stage and off stage, and win games for it.
You're absolutely right. Scythe does not need to be the, you know, flashy, clip-heavy style that's always about going super, super deep off stage. Scythe can also just be the ultimate denial weapon. It can keep you stuck off stage. It can patrol the ledge like none other, thanks to the reach of down air and how massive side air is as well, and the activity of recovery. You have a lot of tools to be able to control and dominate space, and I think Himwy did that exceptionally well that game.
Exactly, and we'll see kind of how what changes are in order for Hebi, who is now hovering the Jaeyun, which is an interesting pick. I know Hebi as somebody that plays a lot of Legends, and I think one of the through lines is either you're seeing Hebi playing Sword or you're seeing Hebi playing Hammer, and today definitely opting for the Sword Legends as we get a Jaeyun pick, it looks like here, which is a legend.
Greatsword right now. I feel like Greatsword right is such a volatile topic of discussion.
Yeah. I personally really like casting Greatsword. I think what's interesting is like when you look at my favorite Greatsword player right now is Brawlhalla. Brawlhalla abuses Greatsword in a way. It's like, I want people to hate my weapon. I want to play this very like smothering, grounded option. And then Use plays Greatsword, and it's like, I'm going to poke you with Greatsword, and it's just like, that's just crazy to me. Like, I don't know how it could be so different in the weapons, but I mean, I get why people don't like Greatsword. It's just a really big weapon that no matter what dex or how fast the legend is able to just combo you and pick you apart. So we'll see how Hebi plays this Greatsword. I imagine it kind of similarly to their cannon, which will be very aggressive, so I'm excited to see it. Yeah, already starting off pretty fast here on the Demon Island pick.
Okay, already Himwy getting his fists in there, able to get a good amount of damage. Looking for the downer as well, looking for the extension. Ooh, okay, yeah, whipping Greatsword D-Light. I mean, that move has some of the most reach in the entire game, but if you whiff it, you whiff it.
Just moving around with this greatsword and just controlling so much of the space immediately. It's very different than any other weapon at creating space. I feel like this is the most like just holding on so much control of this grounded space. But what Himwy's doing really well is using the sidelight to burst in when Jaeyun is punishable, and there that big down sig gets punished by Himwy, who goes for the breakdance there. No time to dance there, but an end sig comes in and not quite enough to KO for Hebi, but a GC downlight will almost.
And light, side light, and light D-light bridge, excuse me, and then able to get the downer spike as well. Really good stuff. Hebi closing that one out, despite the fact that I feel like the beginning of that stock didn't go so great. Hebi was not able to find a lot of openers, but guess what? When Greatsword finds those openers, you don't need a lot of them at all. GC side light recovery unsuccessful at the moment. Himwy coming in with the weapon toss and lighting in the wrong direction. Ooh, how do you close?
Nice little conversion there with the downlight into the recovery. A classic for Use, who's so good at conditioning you to dash under when Greatsword jumps, and that downer is just able to scoop up for that. Nice little sidelight there, and a weapon toss sends Hebi in a really terrible spot. Can you make it back? No, you cannot, as Hebi just falls off the stage and throws the weapon in the process.
Yeah, gets his last bit of chip damage as well as a little treat, as a little snack at the moment. Okay, and light neutral as well. Good amount of damage. Hebi continuing to patrol the ground at the stage. Just dash jumping, landing in with the recovery. That move is so active, it is so big.
Ooh.
What a follow-up.
The classic. I like to call that the use the down air into the air as a way to close out those high damage KOs, and Hebi really taking a book out of Use here with the movement. We're seeing like such consistent movement that makes it so hard to really pin down where the initiation starts, where that sidelight's going to come out from, and right now Himwy's definitely getting smothered by it.
Okay, Hebi is dash jumping back and forth all over the place. What can Himwy do to challenge that? I feel like a dash up, side stick or something, just like for once, for good measure. Because Hebi's just going for like a lot of really like quick normals after that. And I feel like that is a good opportunity for Himwy to be able to get a punish. Unfortunately, that does not connect that time around. Okay.
These down airs, man, have been really like they just do so much damage. I feel like that's something that you don't really think about versus Greatsword, is when you can start conditioning your opponent to get hit by down airs or not dodging out of strings, it gets real scary versus the Greatsword, as we see Hebi doing 650 damage on the Greatsword. Absolutely insane.
That was a lot of pressure. That was a high pressure, high stakes CQC combat. Well, I guess it has the word combat in it, but that entire last stock, I mean, it was defined by small interaction, and it just so happened that Hebi was the one that was coming out on top of each and every single one of those interactions, connecting a sidelight, connecting a D-light, getting a couple of hits, whereas Himwy, not so much.
Yeah, we'll see how this counterpick plays into effect for Himwy, who's now playing the Ahsoka Tano. So I think this is the kryptonite to Hebi, at least so far in their set history. As soon as Himwy, puts on the Asuri, I feel like it's ours. Yeah.
Antares pick into Greatsword.
I think most of the time I would be like, this is a bad choice, but it's Himwy, and like Himwy just has this like player versus player read on guitars that's like the most insane thing ever. It's incredibly dominant versus so many players, and even in the sword mirror here, showing off some dominance already in the matchup, and we see Hebi immediately want to swap over to the greatsword. We might not see a lot of guitars even. We might see Himwy kind of leaning into the sword. We'll see.
We'll just have to see. At the moment, though, Himwy patrolling the stage, committing to that side light, putting himself off stage, looking for a way to get back down onto Sentu. But alas, man, that D-light bridge, that is so active. It is such a good button. That is such a good move. Wow.
Little side air there to look to tap in and confirm that edgeguard. Didn't find the second side air, though, and the greatsword creates some, or disarms Himwy now, who's struggling to get back to finding a weapon here. Let's go cycle back, and we have the guitars online though. Nice avoidance on that end sig into the recovery. Yeah, very clean stuff.
Yeah, that was the second end sig that came out there, and Hebi not going to be so lucky in actually connecting it here. And Light into the recovery as well. Himwy just keeps on dealing what is a good amount of damage at the moment. Down air and Light, recovery. Hebi taking a lot of damage. I think you might be right about the guitars thing. We'll see.
You gotta be careful there, and that's a classic plug-and-play sig from Hebi there, going for the side light, immediately hitting the end light, because essentially it's the same thing as a bridger, and it covers that dodge perfectly as Himwy gets caught in that very classic Jaeyun mix-up on the guitars now versus the greatsword. We'll see if he's able to find their way in, and as I say that, taking so much damage from this greatsword, Himwy able to find their way back to the stage, but not after taking almost 100 damage. Hebi unstoppable on the greatsword right now, completely picking apart Himwy, saying, you have strings on guitars, I have strings on greatsword, and I'll do way more damage than you.
I feel like this is a game of cat and mouse at the moment, right? Greatsword, you constantly dashing back with a couple of sidelights, guitars, you're going in, and then Himwy was able to get in close enough to finish out that second stock. So pretty good lead to have at the moment.
Nice little movement here from Himwy, who's giving respect to Hebi off the wall here, knowing that, you know, greatsword's going to be able to burst out with those big hitboxes. As I say that recovery punishes and finds a KO. The greatsword on line for Hebi, who's looking to get some extra credit on the unarmed. No, doesn't even try to weapon starve, just really wants to hold this greatsword. I like the option.
Okay, I'd like just to try to catch one of these landings, but Himwy is being a little bit floaty, right? Himwy is opting to not immediately fast fall, to take a sweet old time.
I'd like the very late hitbox of it, barely connecting. Nice little string there from Hebi, who sends Himwy off stage. Catches there with the bridge and sends off stage once again. Not going for any of the finishers though, which I think is a good choice. Just wanting to get that extra damage here. Himwy with the guitars. Put your helmet on. We might see a half pipe. We don't though. The guitar's not really working in the same way it did in the beginning of this game.
But it is useful to still catch those jumps, especially with D-Light, especially with neutral in. Himwy's trying to play as non-committally as possible, but Hebi sticking onto the greatsword, dashing back, playing it nice and safe, and then going for the neutral finisher as well to take it off the top. Hebi gonna be taking game number 3.
Going up 2-1 in the set, the counterpick from Himwy doesn't work out. For the first time in their match history, I think this might be the first time Hebi is able to take a game off the Asuri. So we'll see as we get right back into the next game. There's no changes of legends. And this is the counterpick that Hebi needed, it seemed like, who is somebody that I don't think has played Jaeyun yet in a tournament match. I've basically only seen, you know, Scarlet, Sidra, Zol, Cassidy, so it's cool to see them immediately finding some success on the greatsword.
And, you know, Katari Greatsword, excuse me, I still don't fully understand Himwy's rationale behind it, because I feel like Himwy is uniquely struggling. You know, sword or Greatsword sidelight, such a good move, but as Katari's, it feels like an even better move. It feels even more difficult to get in against.
No, definitely, and to say like, okay, well, Katars can like burst in, it's definitely not the same as like something like Gauntlet. You although have burst options, they're definitely not as good versus Greatsword at like picking apart the kind of like how all the hitboxes on the ground is what I'm trying to say. But I definitely like this from Himwy, picking up the sword here and looking to contend with the greatsword. But right now Hebi is all gas, no brakes. We don't see Hebi stopping hitting buttons for anything, even when off stage, as I say that there, that sider does swat Himwy away. So we'll see if Himwy can see some control in the match, because I feel like Hebi just controls the pace.
His fuel emissions right now, pretty bad. Worse than a private chat at the moment. Himwy gonna put a quick stop to that, taking the recovery, using it to get Hebi stock off the top, and now it's a 3-2 stock lead. You have Katars on hand. Can you find this opening, or is Hebi gonna deny you of space? I can't believe that connected.
Connecting again there with that recovery, not enough to KO, but man, looking close to it. Yeah, two connectors there, didn't want to go for a finisher as Himwy was able to find some safety on the wall there. But Batas has come through. We see the sword on Himwy still. A down air will KO, a side air will KO any of the Jaeyun Sigs. You just need to find the last hit to tap it in.
Oh my gosh, Himwy is going in, and Hebi is not able to close this out quite yet. The side of him across the stage, not going to be enough. Had you been any closer to the left, that might have pushed him through the blast zone, but the downer into the neutral, one of the only consistent ways for Great Sway to find KOs.
Yeah, no matter the damage, that will find a confirm, and it will close out this. Now landing with a down air there. That's a classic, hitting the down air, trying to go for the bridge after. It definitely just not a true confirm, and Himwy punishes Hebi dearly for it. We could be seeing a game 5 here off the back of this. Ahsoka Tano finally finding some activation, and Himwy definitely kind of playing into the sword, kind of similar to their Koji, not really wanting to play, not wanting to play the secondary weapon, just wanting to fully commit to the sword.
Okay, backing off a little bit here, being nice and patient, looking to play the GCD light unsuccessfully. Hebi, those are the kinds of plays you need to make if you want a chance of making this one back. Catching the dodge out, Hebi's no longer dashing back. That's exactly the adaptation I wanted to see after the D-light bridge. You want to go in, you want to punish that dodge out, and then going for the end-light finisher, Hebi has a chance. Hebi has a shot of making this upset.
This would be a big win for him, who hasn't been able to find a win on Himwy in quite a while now with the great sword in hand. Some damage there and sets Himwy up. Himwy is really swinging for the fences here, just wanting to get any space and fighting for it dearly. The clank there, not enough to KO with that ground pound, but that recovery surely will. And we got a game 5. Himwy's Ahsoka on the back of a very sword dominant game plan is forcing this game 5 versus the great sword.
This is what happens when you try to land and you're sweating and you're going up against maybe one of the best juggling weapons in the entire game. Sway's recovery is so active, Sway neutral is so quick and non-committal, as well. There's so many difficult ways to land against Sway, and so Hebi was just not in a very good position. However, the thing that I did want to point out is the way that Hebi is adapting. Because previously what we saw Sway's sidelight, and then we saw the D-light bridge, and then we saw Hebi dashing back and looking to reset and play as safe as possible. That was good if you wanted to go for that pokey play style, but at the end, Hebi began to adapt to some of Himwy's dodges out. Right? That ground pound that Hebi committed to, I think, was an excellent decision, and I'm curious to see how that continues to play out, PJ.
Yeah, we will definitely see here as it all comes down to this game 5 to fight their way back into the grand finals through the elimination side. Himwy on the guitar. That's a classic, kind of like Guichibu does that a lot with the weapon toss off the sword, picks up the guitars on the way into the corner and then gets a down air. Very scary spot to be in, and Hebi really getting smothered here, even on the great sword. This it? Oh, didn't find the GC downlight. A very interesting gravity cancel from Hebi.
The GC neutral immediately into the finisher was an excellent idea to get back onto the stage. That was so creative.
And that's kind of just showing the innovation that Hebi's able to bring to the table at a moment's notice. But that downlight recovery, no innovation needed from Himwy. Just a classic sword KO confirmed.
Sometimes you just want a steak and potatoes, right? You don't have to modernize it. You don't have to do anything too contemporary to it. It can just be a steak with some potatoes. And so right now, Hebi backing off a little bit. Gonna be looking at this point for a D-light, right? You want D-light recovery, you want D-light siding, but Himwy is not gonna let him have any of it.
Yeah, good luck trying to downlight a guitar player who's so willing to just hit buttons in the air. I mean, you know, catching landings is one thing, but just even trying to air-to-air Himwy is going to be very, very difficult. A down sig comes in on an attempt to catch Hebi. If it was a little bit higher up, it would have potentially KO'd Hebi, but Himwy still has about 150 damage on Hebi, so looking pretty solid.
Guitars on hand, backing off a little bit, just so afraid of that end light. Dash jumping, okay. This is, I think I was talking to like SA players about this, and they're like, yeah, this is what all NA players are doing right now, and Southeast Asia is following suit as well.
Yeah, I like to call it ballerina routines. Like, you're just moving for the sake of moving a lot of times, and I feel like they're it gets a little bit tricky to get really anything out of all that movement.
Yeah, like a, you know, like a, you know, perhaps some would say like a melee twinning clip sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
Moving because it feels good, and it can be exploitable. It can be tricky as well. You can dash dance, right? And that can effectively cause your opponent to whip buttons in your face. And so we'll see how that continues to play out. At the moment, though, the sidelight finisher not going to come out successfully.
Okay, nice little connector there. The down might find this connection, but ooh, a big string does find its KO on the greatsword. And now we're down to last stock game 5 here. Definitely anyone's game right now. You can't count Hebi out, even though that Himwy has been fighting these early stocks, or these stocks earlier than Hebi. It's not over yet.
Dodge in? No.
Oh, big strings, a lot of damage.
That's right. That's what greatsword is supposed to do. You get that one catch, you get that one lead, but right now you're gonna be off stage. Hebi, love that weapon toss, just as a bit of insurance, saying get off of me. Sider comes out, recovery,
boom,
able to catch the fade back, and that is gonna be Himwy taking it over Hebi.
Once again, the Ahsoka Tano counter pick works out for Himwy, who's able to close it out with that side air, waits for the recovery, gets another side air. Hebi pulling out the greatsword, and it almost worked out. We've seen it before where, you know, a classic Hebi counter.